Hello guys, this is your friend Shinobi Addict 2.0 and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto Got Harem with Kurenai, Yugao, Shizune and Hinata Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanatic. Tsunade sighed as she looked at the Anbu sitting across from her. She couldn't understand it, but wherever this Anbu operative went, a large stack of paperwork was soon to follow. Are you sure you want to do this now, Reaper? Can't you wait a little while longer? The Anbu forces could really use the skills you have acquired over the past few years. And your record over the past year has even surpassed Kakashi's and Itachi's. You are becoming somewhat of a legend around here. Tsunade said. Even if she wouldn't admit it, she was quite impressed with the growth the young man in front of her had achieved over the past 3 years. Hi, Hokage-sama, I've been away from my friends for too long now, and while I have earned a few new friends in Anbu, my place is with the Konoha 11. Don't worry though, Hokage-sama, I'll still be available for missions if you need me. I've appreciated everything you have done for me over the past 3 years. Training in Anbu as well as with Ero Sennin has really helped me change from who I once was. Reaper said gratefully. Alright Reaper, I'll sign the papers and send the over to Anbu HQ. You will be reinstated as a special Junin until we can have someone evaluate your skills. Even though I should promote you straight to Junin, you were only technically a genin when you entered Anbu, and that was hard enough for me to explain to the council. This will at least keep them off our case for the moment. Tsunade said as she pulled out 2 sheets of paper and started to sign them. Ba-chan, why are you signing 2 sheets, shouldn't there only be one? The Anbu asked, as he ran his hand through his spiky blonde hair. God damn it Naruto, why can't you keep calling me Tsunade-sama, or Hokage-sama? Tsunade yelled as a tick mark formed on her head, and these second papers are for Neko-san. She asked to be taken off Anbu duty whenever you quit so she could be placed on a team with you. Aside from changing that young woman's view on life, you seem to have made quite the impression on her as well. She added with a smirk, enjoying the faintest of blushes that appeared on Naruto's face. Ah, I didn't do that much, she used to help me a lot when I was little, I just thought I would return the favor. Naruto said, scratching the back of his head in slight embarrassment. But okay, I would be happy to work with Neko-san if that is what she wants. She is one of the only people who can give me a decent kenjutsu spar anyways. Naruto said, alright brat, take these papers to Anbu HQ, make sure to find Neko-san before handing the papers into Tenzo. Tsunade said as she handed the papers to Naruto, who left via Shunshin to his destination. His growth rate has been extraordinary over the past 3 years, hasn't it Tsunade-hime? Came the voice of Jiraiya as he entered the Hokage Tower through the open window. I'm almost glad he denied my request to train him. Even as one of the legendary Sannin, there would be only so much I could teach him. Yes, Naruto has definitely exceeded my expectations, however I am happy that you still managed to train him every so often over the course of the past few years. I really don't think there would be a lot of people who could keep up with him now. Tsunade said as Jiraiya took the seat Naruto was just in. He learns as quickly as his father did when I was his sensei. It's almost scary how much Naruto resembles his old man. It won't be long before people start to recognize who he is. Jiraiya said, suddenly getting serious. While Naruto is capable of handling himself against tough enemies, when we reveal his lineage it will put a big target on Konoha from both Iwa and to a lesser degree Kumo. Tsunade sighed, leaning back in her chair while looking at the portrait of the Yondaime Hokage. Indeed, however, this is what Naruto wants. Besides, he will not be alone. Naruto has made a lot of powerful friends while in Anbu, and don't forget that everyone in the Konoha 11 are quite capable themselves. Hopefully now he will be able to get the recognition he has wanted his entire life. What about the council? Surely they will try and get Naruto into the CRA, and Naruto probably wouldn't like being forced into something like that. Jiraiya asked. Honestly, I'm not sure how to go around bringing that up around Naruto. We will have to talk to him about it and see what he wants to do with the information. I'm not going to force him into anything he doesn't want to do, council be damned. Tsunade replied. Alright, well, I'll leave talking about that to the brat, up to you Tsunade-hime, my opinion might be a little biased. Jiraiya said with a lecherous grin, earning a smack from Tsunade. Stupid pervert. She sighed as she looked out the window. 15 minutes later, Anbu HQ. Naruto sighed as he entered Anbu HQ. He had greatly enjoyed his time in Anbu, and if he had to be honest with himself, deciding to leave was probably one of the hardest decisions he had made since deciding to join in the first place. Asking around for Neiko, Naruto finally located her in one of the many training facilities going through her Kenjutsu katas, and waited till she was finished to address her. As good as ever, Yugao-chan, Naruto said as he made his presence known. I just came from Tsunade-sama's office and have some papers you might be interested in looking at. What have I told you before about using my real name, Reaper-san? Yugao said in a bit of a teasing tone. Not to, but come on, Yugao-chan, when have I ever been one to follow the rules? Naruto replied with a smirk as he took his Anbu mask off, revealing his well-defined facial features. Over the past few years, Naruto had pushed himself to be able to get to his current level, and his body showed it. While he wasn't a muscle-bound freak like some shinobi cough, the Yondaime Raikage cough, you could tell he was muscular, even through his Anbu uniform. Touché, Yugao muttered as she took the sheet of paper Naruto offered it before reading it. Naruto watched in amusement as Yugao's eyes went wide before a gentle smile crossed her face. That and the fact that neither of us are Anbu anymore, Naruto said with a smirk, although I have to ask why you wanted to leave to be on a team with me. I thought you loved being in the Anbu. I did, and I still do, but for the longest time me being in Anbu was so I could forget about Hayate-kun. For a while I had even hoped that doing S-ranked mission after S-ranked mission would eventually make me able to see him again. Yugao started as she too took her Anbu mask off. When Tenzo said that you would be joining Anbu, I was surprised. From what I remembered at the time, you had little to no skill as a shinobi. Hey, I take offense to that, I knew a few things. Naruto said with a pout, making Yugao smile again. Two techniques do not count as a few things, Naruto-kun, and while I admit I was impressed that you knew both the Rasengan and Shadow Clone Jutsu, you should have known other things as well. But you took your first year of training here very seriously, and after learning the secret of the Shadow Clone you started improving in leaps and bounds, quickly rising through the ranks of Anbu, almost to the same degree as Kakashi-senpai and Itachi-san. Yugao stated, making Naruto blush slightly at being praised by the beautiful Kunoichi. Yay, alright, but that still doesn't answer why you want to be on a team with me, Yugao-chan. I mean, I'm probably gonna be put with Kakashi-sensei for a while again until I can get my full promotion. You sure you can put up with him without trying to kill him? Naruto asked. I think I could manage, Naruto-kun. And to answer your question, the day you asked me to start teaching you Kenjutsu is probably what impacted this decision most. If not for that day we would never have become friends and I would most likely still be trying to get myself killed doing S-ranked missions. You made me realize that I still had a lot to live for, and that Hayate-kun wouldn't want me to be how I was. Yugao said as she gained a semi-far away look in her eyes. You give me too much credit, Yugao-chan. What kind of friend would I be if I couldn't help you? And besides, you were there for me a lot when I was little, so it should be me who is thanking you. Naruto said with a smile. We should probably go and see Tenzo now so we have enough time to get all of our stuff cleaned out of our lockers and go back to see Tsunade-ba-chan. You are never going to stop calling her that, are you, Naruto-kun? Yugao asked with smirk. Nah, especially to her face, it's a good way to test my reaction time whenever she hurls something at my face. He replied with a laugh as they both left the training room on their way to see the Anbu commander. Tsunade's office, same time. Shizune, please get me Naruto's graduating class as well, guys, team and their senseis, Tsunade said into the intercom, hearing Shizune give a swift reply. Tsunade couldn't help but feel a little nervous for what she was about to reveal to Naruto's friends, and if she had to be honest, she didn't know how a few of them would take it. 15 minutes later, teams 8, 9, and 10, as well as Sakura, all entered Tsunade's office, curious looks on their faces as to why all of them had been summoned at the same time. You requested our presence, Tsunade-sama? A tall bearded man asked. Yes, Asuma-san, I called you all here regarding Naruto's disappearance about 3 years ago. Tsunade said, immediately catching Kakashi's attention. Even though he knew where Naruto was, he was hoping that he would be able to go on missions with his student once again, as well as the rest of the Konoha 11. It's been 3 years already, Hokage-sama, time sure flies. Kakashi said in a bored tone, making the other Junin senseis look at him with surprise. Your student disappears for 3 years and that's all you can say when we finally get word on what happened to him? A woman with beautiful red eyes said in surprise. I can't help but agree with Kurenai-san, although something leads me to believe that you know where your student has been. Care to elaborate, Kakashi-san? Asuma asked, making everyone look at the silver-haired Junin. So what if I did? I was never at liberty to talk about what happened to Naruto-kun. And before any of you say anything, he swore me into secrecy, but I can assure you, Asuma-san, Kurenai-san, that my student is fine and has recently been carving his own path through our shinobi ranks. Kakashi said, before closing his book and pocketing it. Kakashi-san is right, on both accounts that Naruto is both okay, and has been making quite the name for himself in the past year. Tsunade said as she nodded her head in agreement. Tsunade-sensei, why would Naruto just disappear without telling any of us where he was going? That doesn't seem like something Naruto would do. A girl with short pink hair said. I have to agree with Sakura, Tsunade-sama, it seems highly unlikely that someone like Naruto would disappear without at least telling his friends he was alright, especially since his disappearance was right after the failed Sasuke retrieval mission. Kurenai said, looking back and forth between Kakashi and the busty Hokage. Both you and Sakura are right, Kurenai-san, the Naruto you knew would never do something like that. But the Naruto you once knew is no longer alive. Tsunade said with a small smile, shocking everyone present. No longer alive? You can't mean. Sakura started only to be cut off by Tsunade. No, Sakura. Naruto is not dead, but he is no longer who you once knew. The past 3 years has changed him drastically. He is no longer the blonde idiot who runs around using Kage Bunshin to solve all his issues. After the mission, Jiraiya came by to ask Naruto to become his apprentice. Tsunade said, you can't be serious. Jiraiya of the Sannin, one of the most powerful shinobi alive today, asked the class dead last to become his apprentice. A boy with a black jacket standing beside a large white dog said. You should be careful as to how you talk about Naruto now, Kiba-san, like I said, he is no longer the boy you guys once knew, and he would take offense to what you just said. Tsunade said as she glared at the boy, making him shrink slightly. Well, that would make sense. With a teacher like Jiraiya, I'm sure Naruto has become a lot stronger since we last saw him. A boy wearing a big baggy green coat said. Indeed he would have, if he had accepted the pervert's proposal to train him. Tsunade said, and smirked as everyone present looked at her like she had grown a second head. Naruto refused to be trained by one of the Sannin. Why would he do something like that? Asuma asked. It's not an everyday occurrence to be offered training by one of the legendary Sannin. Indeed he did. The reason why is that Jiraiya would have had to take him away from the village for 3 years to train him, and Naruto didn't like the idea of being away from his home for so long. But that doesn't mean Naruto has not received training from that stupid pervert, he just never had to leave the village to obtain it. Tsunade said. So, Naruto has been in the village for the past 3 years, then how come none of us have ever seen him? Sakura asked, looking between Kakashi and her current sensei, hoping at least one of them could give her an answer. The reason for that, Sakura, will be explained as soon as Naruto gets here, which should be fairly soon actually. Tsunade said. And she was right. A few minutes later someone knocked on her door and it opened to reveal 2 Anbu, one of which Kurenai recognized, but the other made her eyes widen and had to use all of her training to not be put on guard by this man in front of her. He was a tall man who radiated power and respect, but that's not what scared her, the man's attire is what put her on guard. The standard gray Anbu equipment had been dyed black, and wear and tear was evident on his armor, sword scratches, holes, and burn marks. Over top of the armor was a long, ragged black cloak that had a large hood which covered a lot of the Anbu's face, but not enough for Kurenai to not be able to recognize the mask. Reaper, Kurenai whispered, immediately earning both guys and Asuma's attention as they too were busy studying the Anbu in front of them. What's so special about that mask? Sakura asked Kurenai, as she tried hard to suppress her fear of the man who just entered the room. Each Anbu mask is special to those who wear them, but there are select few who get masks custom made. The Reaper mask is one of, if not the, rarest Anbu masks to be given out. Kakashi explained, a hint of pride evident in his voice. Of course he had known of Naruto's growth in Anbu over the past 3 years, but to be given the Reaper mask, that was something that not even he could have done, and he was regarded as one of the best Anbu in Konoha's history. Kakashi-senpai is right, the Neko masked Anbu said. The Reaper mask is one of the highest honors you can get in Anbu. Not even Kakashi was eligible for the mask after his term in Anbu, and he was regarded as one of the best to have ever graced the Anbu ranks. Even our current commander still calls him senpai. Neko said in a teasing tone. Even though I wish he didn't, but may I ask why you are here, Neko-san? Kakashi asked. Everything will be explained shortly, senpai, but continuing on, the Reaper mask has a few conditions that need to be met before it can be given out. For starters, a perfect record for missions, including S-ranked. Aside from that, a certain number of both A and S-ranked missions must be completed. Lastly, and probably the hardest for us Anbu because we don't get put in bingo books often, is an S rank with a flea on site rank given in every bingo book across the elemental nations, including the small ones. Neko finished, making the rookies go wide-eyed as they looked at the person who, judging by hire, couldn't have been much older than them. I really wish you wouldn't have brought them here, Tsunade-sama. You should have asked, or at least told me in advance. Reaper said, I'm sorry Reaper, I just thought this would have been best. The Hokage replied, fine, but I want something in return for this. Reaper said, shocking the Genin and Junin at the bold declaration. If I may, Anbu-san, but you are in no position to demand anything from the Hokage. Asuma said, earning nods from a few in the room. You are in no position to tell me what I may or may not do, Asuma-san. My relation with Tsunade-sama is mine and mine alone, you would do well to remember that. Reaper said in a cold tone. You may have the Reaper mask, but you don't scare me. Asuma said as he reached for his trench knives, but froze as he felt a kunai held against his back as Reaper appeared behind him, shocking those present with his speed. You should, Reaper whispered in his ear, before disappearing and reappearing beside Neko, who shook her heads at his actions. That's enough, both of you. Tsunade yelled, before sitting back down and burying her face in her hands. As interesting as this is Hokage-sama, what does this have to do with Naruto? Kurenai asked. Nothing. Like Tsunade-sama has probably already told you, the Naruto you all knew died a long time ago. Reaper said, gaining everyone's attention yet again. How would you know Anbu-san? A girl in a traditional style Chinese dress with her hair in dual buns said. Because I killed him, Reaper replied, shocking everyone before he and Neko removed their masks. Naruto, Sakura stammered. How? Why? What do you mean why? Please elaborate Sakura-san. Naruto replied, shocking the young girl at how he addressed her. He had always addressed her as Sakura-chan before, and she would never admit it to anyone, but it hurt that he didn't call her that. Why didn't you tell any of us what you were doing? We all thought you were dead, I thought we were a team. Sakura asked, tears threatening to fall from her eyes. You finally decided to care, Sakura-san. Naruto scoffed. While I do admit we were a team, we weren't a very good one. As you have all said in the past, I was the dead last. Sakura has book knowledge but couldn't put it to practice in the field. And all Sasuke cared about was getting revenge on his clan. He didn't give two about us, and he proved that when he shoved a Chidori through my chest. As that conversation was going on, Kurenai had brought Yugao off to the side as well. She knew how much her friend loved to be in Anbu and was surprised to see her here with Naruto. What did you pull me aside for, Kurenai-chan? Yugao asked her friend. What do you mean what? I thought you loved Anbu. Why are you here with Naruto who is apparently leaving Anbu? Kurenai asked, making Yugao sigh, as she had not expected her friend to be there when she resigned. I made arrangements with Tsunade-sama a while ago, asking to be placed on a team with Naruto-kun when he decided to resign from Anbu. She explained. Kurenai's eyes slightly widened when she heard Yugao call him kun, but decided not to ask about it. That still doesn't help me understand why Yugao-chan, Enko and I have been asking you to leave Anbu for years and you never listened to us. And now just like nothing Naruto makes you want to leave, what happened over the past 3 years? Kurenai asked, curious as to why Naruto was suddenly able to get through to her friend. Mention of Naruto's name managed to snap a young indigo-haired girl out of the trance she had been in after learning Naruto was in fact the Reaper masked Anbu, and decided to listen in on the older women's conversation. I'm not entirely sure myself, Kurenai-chan, but Naruto-kun was able to change how I viewed life. After Hayate-kun's death I didn't know what to do, so I began doing S-ranked mission after S-ranked mission, trying to keep my mind of things, or worse, get killed. A few months after Naruto had joined Anbu though he had sought me out for kenjutsu training, at first I was a little skeptical about training him because from what I could remember about him he was never very talented. At first I said no, but he kept pestering me until I finally caved in. He took the training in like a sponge and is now easily one of the best kenjutsu users in Konoha, only slightly behind myself. After a few missions together Naruto noticed that I was troubled by something, and being the caring person that he has confronted me on it. She explained, gaining a semi-far-away look in her eyes that didn't go unnoticed by either Kurenai or Hinata, who by this time was a little jealous of the strange woman being able to get so close to Naruto too quickly. What happened then? I know how hard it is for you to talk about what happened with Hayate. Kurenai asked, while at the same time silently thanking Naruto for being the one who changed her friend. Naruto has a calming aura around him that makes it feel like you can pretty much trust him with anything. In the end I caved and told him about what happened. That night was the first time since Hayate's death that I broke down and cried, but he was there for me the entire time to comfort me. Yugao said with a smile as she looked at Naruto being surrounded by his friends. I'm happy for you, Yugao-chan, it sounds as if you were finally able to move on from Hayate. It sounds like you and Naruto are really close. Kurenai said, and smirked slightly as she saw a slight blush cross the kenjutsu specialist's face. It's nothing like that Kurenai-chan, we are just friends. Although just between us girls, you should see him under that Anbu armor. Yugao replied, blushing at the memories of walking in on Naruto without his gear on, much to Kurenai's amusement. Back with Naruto he was doing his best to answer all the questions being asked by his old friends, as well as avoiding Ino who was getting just a little too close for his comfort. Looking around he noticed Yugao and Kurenai talking which brought a smile to his face, remembering all the stories he had been told from Yugao. As much as I'm enjoying this attention guys we need to finish up here, we can all catch up later on or whenever I have my skills assessment. Naruto said, hoping to finish this as quickly as possible. Skills assessment? What's that? Ino asked. Naruto is going to be given an assessment on his skills to be able to properly gauge his rank. Even though he has become an S-ranked shinobi in the bingo books, the council wants a demonstration of his skills. The only person in this room who has actually seen Naruto fight seriously would be Yugao-san, the other Anbu who is with Naruto. Naruto's current rank will be Special Junin until I can arrange someone to give Naruto an assessment. Tsunade explained, but sighed as she saw a grin spread across Asuma's face, as well as Kiba's. Hokage-sama, would you mind if I gave Naruto the rest? Asuma asked, making Kakashi, Yugao, and Tsunade narrow their eyes at the bearded Junin. Naruto's show earlier must have really pissed him off. I would also like to test Naruto's skills Hokage-sama, Kiba declared. Asuma I would be alright with because he has a lot of experience as a Junin, but Kiba I'm not sure about, you have not been Junin for very long. Tsunade said, it's fine Ba-chan, they can both fight against me if they want. I must have really hurt your pride earlier Asuma-san if you're willing to go through with this. Naruto explained. Like I said before brat, you don't scare me. Asuma replied, just tell me when and where. We will have the assessment tomorrow morning, at Training Ground 7, you are all welcome to come watch. Tsunade said, now that that's out of the way, I want to ask all of you aside from Yugao-chan and Kakashi-san to leave so we can talk to the Hokage and Shizune-san in private. We can meet up sometime later and talk about what's happened over the past 3 years. Naruto said, making Tsunade nod, already guessing about what Naruto wanted to talk about. Why do we have to leave though? We should be able to stay if it has to do with you. Sakura asked. Because this matter doesn't concern any of you yet, I'm sure you will figure it out in the near future. Now, aside from the people Naruto asked to stay, the rest of you are dismissed. Tsunade said. Naruto sighed after everyone had left, and took a seat on one of the chairs across from Tsunade. That could have gone better. It was a bad idea to bring them all here. Naruto said, earning a nod from Yugao and Kakashi. I know, I'm sorry Naruto-kun, I kind of expected Kiba to act like that, but definitely not Asuma, his attitude towards you surprised me. Tsunade replied as she reached under her desk and pulled out a bottle of sake. Yay, well, that's none of my concern. If they still have issues with me after tomorrow, it's their own fault. Now, I'm sure you know why I wanted to talk to you all in private, right? Naruto said, before running through a few hand signs and put up a silencing seal around the office. I'm assuming it's about your parents, and to a latter extent you inheritance, right? Tsunade asked, making Naruto nod his head. Yay, it is, for the most part. I'm not too worried about when you want to tell everyone about my parents, I'm more worried about the kind of attention the village will get as a whole from Iwa and to an extent anyone who I'm close to. Naruto said, stealing a quick glance at Yugao that didn't go unseen by the Hokage or Kakashi. While I'm confident in my own skills about taking on large groups of enemies, not everyone has the same amount of chakra that I do, and that would put them at a large disadvantage, as I can pretty much assure you that if Iwa was to send people after me, it would be a small group at least. You make a good point, Naruto-kun. Iwa would use any means necessary to get to you, including taking your friends as hostages in exchange for yourself. Not to mention the lingering threat of the Akatsuki. Jiraiya said they have been a little more mobile lately. Kakashi said, we will deal with the Akatsuki at a later time. I think our main threat right now will be Iwa, and to a lesser extent Kumo and Kiri. But there are a few other things that I want to talk to you about, Naruto, which will include your status as a clan head. Tsunade said, if you are going to talk to me about the CRA Hokage-sama, then I am already well aware of what that means for me. I still have a couple years to decide if I want to be put under the CRA, so I will have to get back to you on that. Naruto said, not really surprising Tsunade, as it was Anbu protocol to keep up to date with Konoha's laws. Alright, well, that is pretty much everything I wanted to talk to you about, Naruto-kun. I have a scroll for you that contains both yours and Yugao-san's Junin bests, as well as the key to your parents' estate. Tsunade said as she pulled out a scroll and handed it to Naruto. Thank you, Hokage-sama. I will see you tomorrow at Training Ground 7. Naruto replied before doing a few more hand seals and releasing the silencing seal before he and Yugao left the office. He has grown a lot, hasn't he, Tsunade-sama? Kakashi asked, making the Hokage smile and nod her head at the elite Junin. With Naruto and Yugao. So Naruto-kun, do you even know where you are going? Yugao asked, making the blonde scowl at her. Of course I do. I looked up where my parents' estate was a few months ago. Naruto explained. What about you? Do you have anywhere to stay? Well, I could probably crash at Kurenai-chan's or Anko-chan's place for a while. Yugao said. She didn't really have a place to stay as she no longer had the keys to the apartment Hayate and her had shared before he died. I see. How about you stay with me for a while? Naruto asked, slightly shocking Yugao, before she got a teasing look on her face. I don't know, Naruto, I don't think you could handle me just yet. She said, I wouldn't worry about that, Yugao-chan. I'm a stamina freak who knows Kage Bunshin. I'm sure I could take care of all your needs. Naruto said seductively, making the ex-Anbu captain blush slightly. But seriously, Yugao-chan, we used to sleep in the same tent when we were on missions. I'm sure there are tons of rooms in my parents' house, or you could even sleep in one of the smaller houses around the compound. Yugao thought about his offer. She really had nowhere to go, and while she was sure Kurenai and Anko would take her in, it wouldn't be very comfortable for her, as they both only had one-bedroom apartments. And she had to admit Naruto had a valid point about their previous sleeping arrangements when they were on missions together. Alright, Naruto-kun, if you're sure you're okay with this, then I'll gladly accept your offer, thank you. Yugao said with a smile, which in turn caused Naruto to smile. Things were starting to look up for both of them. With nothing for either of them to grab, Naruto and Yugao quickly made their way over to the clan district to find the Namikaze compound, which was located between the Hyuga and Abram clan compounds, not sure if they are close in the actual show or not, but just run with it. The first thing Naruto noticed when they reached the gate was the intricate seal design that covered it. Taking a few moments to study the seal, Naruto nodded before molding his chakra and putting his hands on the gate. "What are you doing, Naruto-kun?" Yugao asked. As a Kenjutsu specialist, she had never really studied any fuinjutsu other than basic sealing scrolls and exploding tags. "My father and mother were both masters of fuinjutsu, and judging by this seal, he wanted this place to be the safest place in Konoha. It's a high-level chakra seal that will only open if someone who has the same blood as either my father or mother applies their chakra to it. After we get inside, I'll tweak it so that whoever I add to the seal will be able to enter." Naruto explained. "Good explanation, brat. It looks like my time teaching you fuinjutsu didn't go to waste after all." A voice from behind them said. They turned to see both Kakashi and a man with long white hair approaching them. "Whatever arrow Senin, I'm going to assume that both you and Kakashi-sensei can enter, right? You being my father's sensei and Kakashi his student would only make sense," Naruto said, earning a nod from the Toad Sage. "It's been a while since I've seen you, Naruto. I wanted to see just how much my student has grown, as well as see my sensei's house again," Kakashi said, never taking his eye off his little orange book. "Alright, if either of you break anything you owe me, come on Yugao-chan, let's go," Naruto said, making the other two aware of her presence, but they decided to shrug it off for now. Entering the compound, Naruto and Yugao couldn't help but marvel at how beautiful everything was. Large oak trees lined the walls, while inside a large assortment of flowers lined the marble walkways. "It's beautiful, but how has everything been so well kept over the past 16 years? Surely no one has been in here since my parents died?" Naruto asked. The Uzumaki clan was well known for their knowledge of seals. Add your mother's knowledge to your father's skill for creating and mastering fuinjutsu and they were able to come up with seals to keep the outside well kept. Seals that work like sprinklers to water the flowers, as well as a few that released low-level futon jutsus to keep the grass well cut. If I wouldn't have already known about this, I would be just about as amazed as you are right now, Jiraiya explained. Aside from those, there are a lot of security seals spread out around the grounds. Minato had a lot of enemies, and when he found out Kushina was pregnant with you, he made this place as safe as possible. I see. That's good then. I will have to take a look at my father's notes and figure out what every seal does, maybe add a few more now that the Akatsuki is also an issue, Naruto said, earning a nod from the Toad Sage. We should get everything inside and unpacked before having to leave to meet up with everyone, Yugao-chan. So, Yugao-san is going to be living with you, Naruto-kun? Are you guys like? Kakashi said, leaving the question in the air as he made little movements with his hands, reminding the blonde of what Konohamaru did to Sakura before the Chunin exams. No, Kakashi-sensei, we aren't. Yugao-chan is just staying with me because she has nowhere else to go, Naruto said with a sigh before entering the house, followed shortly by a semi-blushing Yugao. Right, Kakashi said as he followed them in. Well, at least the outside was well kept, Naruto said as he looked around his new house. He was hoping his father had a similar setup inside as he did outside, but judging by the amount of dust and cobwebs, it had been too much to ask for. Naruto made 10 shadow clones and sent 2 of them upstairs with his and Yugao's bags, while telling the rest of them to start cleaning as he, Yugao, Kakashi, and Jiraiya started to explore the house. Even with all the dust, Naruto had to admit it was a beautiful house, but having lived in a shitty apartment since he was little, just about anything else would feel nice. The main floor was home to the living room, dining room and kitchen, while the upstairs was mainly bedrooms and bathrooms. Downstairs was home to what Naruto was interested in the most, the library, which held all of his father's notes on sealing as well as the Hiraishin Jutsu. Looking around, Naruto found a variety of different sealing methods, as well as some of the Uzumaki clan scrolls for jutsus and kenjutsu katas. This place is as impressive as I remember it. Some of these scrolls contain long-lost sealing methods and jutsus, as well as the Uzumaki kenjutsu style, which was considered one of the most formidable forms of kenjutsu. Jiraiya stated as he and Kakashi looked through some of the scrolls. I'll be sure to take a look at them later. If you want, Yugao-chan, you can look through the Kenjutsu scrolls later as well. For now I want to finish exploring the grounds. Naruto said as he started making his way back upstairs. Hey Naruto-kun, where did your clones but my stuff? I want to change out of my Anbu uniform for now. Yugao asked as they made their way back to the main entrance of the house. They put your bags upstairs, last door on the left Yugao-chan. Naruto replied, making the Kenjutsu specialist nod and disappear upstairs. You two seem pretty close, brat. You sure there is nothing else going on here? Jiraiya asked with a lecherous grin. Shut it, you pervert. Like I said earlier, we're just friends. Naruto replied as he glared at the old pervert, who just shrugged it off and walked outside. Whatever, brat. I'm going to go do some research. I'll see you guys in the morning for your skills assessment. Jiraiya said as he shunshined out of the compound. I think I'm going to take off as well, Naruto. I've already seen the rest of the grounds before, but I will catch up with you guys later when you meet everyone else, alright? Kakashi said, earning a nod from the blonde as he decided to use the gate to get out. A few minutes later Yugao came out of the house dressed as a normal Junin, and Naruto would be lying if he said he didn't find the kunoichi to be very attractive. Where did Jiraiya-sama and Kakashi-senpai go, Naruto-kun? Yugao asked as she walked up to Naruto, who was currently trying his best not to stare at her. The pervert said he was going to go do some research, which means peeking on the women's bathhouse, and Kakashi left to do Kakashi things, I guess, probably trying to come up with a few more lame excuses as to why he is late all the time. Naruto replied, earning a light giggle from Yugao. Alright, well, let's finish looking around, and then we can go get something to eat before meeting up with everyone. Naruto said as they started walking around the compound a little more. Back behind the house they found the training grounds, and a few ponds and steams to practice Suiten jutsus. It's gorgeous back here, Yugao said as she took everything in. Yay, it's definitely something else. My old man sure knew how to make the most of the space given to him. Naruto replied, I'm going to go change, and then we can go grab something to eat before meeting up with everyone else, alright? A few minutes later Naruto appeared wearing standard Anbu pants and combat boots, with kunai holsters on each leg, and a black tank top over a mesh armor shirt. Yugao couldn't deny that Naruto was attractive. He had grown a lot over the past few years, and now easily stood as tall as Kakashi. Having lost all of his baby fat over 3 years of rigorous training, he had a very defined figure, and you were able to easily see his muscles underneath his mesh armor. He had let his hair grow out, and now had the same jaw-length bangs that framed his face, just like his father. Yugao was sure that Naruto would start having issues with fangirls, especially after his status as the Namikaze clan leader was announced. The thought of Naruto having fangirls made Yugao feel weird inside. She couldn't exactly pinpoint what the feeling was just yet, but she would have to talk to someone about it eventually. Ready to go, Yugao-chan? Naruto asked as he made his way over to her. I'm ready, Naruto-kun. Where did you want to go? She asked as they started walking towards the gate. How about that sushi bar you always talked about on missions? Naruto asked as they stepped out, but came face to face with someone he didn't want to deal with just yet. Hinata Hyuga. Over the past 3 years he had matured greatly, and now understood why the girl was always blushing around him, and while he would admit that she was very beautiful now, he couldn't return the feelings that she had for him. Naruto-kun, why are you coming out of the Yondaime's sea compound? Hinata asked, making Naruto curse under his breath. They should have just left by Shunshin. I'm sorry Hinata, but I'm not allowed to talk about it. It's the reason why Tsunade-sama asked you all to leave earlier. You will all figure it out eventually, but for now you don't need to know, sorry. Naruto replied before he and Yugao quickly left via Shunshin, leaving Hinata alone in the street, thinking that maybe her father would know why. With Naruto and Yugao, that was close Naruto-kun, good save. Yugao said with a smirk as they appeared near the center of Konoha. It was my own mistake, we should have just left by Shunshin, and I can only assume that Hinata is going to ask around as to why we would be there now. Naruto sighed out. She was bound to find out eventually, From what I remember, your father and Hiashi seemed to be fairly close friends. Yugao said as they made their way towards the sushi bar, earning a surprised look from Naruto. That's surprising. From what I remember about the Hyuga clan head was that he had a bigger stick shoved up his than Neji did before I beat it out of him. Naruto replied. Well, Hiashi-sama wasn't always like that. He first started changing after your father and mother died. Then he completely fell apart after the death of his wife during her birth of their second child. Yugao explained. I can almost guarantee that the Hyuga will be a powerful ally for you once you inaugurate it as the Namikaze clan head. I see, it would be good to get to know him then, especially if I was to ever become Hokage. Naruto replied, Can I ask you a question, Yugao-chan? Of course, Naruto-kun. With my mother being a part of the Uzumaki clan, and my father being from the Namikaze, I can't decide what name I want to take. While I would like to have my father's last name, I feel it would be unfair to my mother, and vice versa. Naruto said. Yugao could see where Naruto was coming from. With him being the last of two famous clans, he didn't want to be the reason that either one of them died out. Maybe try talking to Tsunade-sama about taking both last names. It's rare, but in your case it might be allowed, then it would be a joint Uzumaki Namikaze clan. Yugao suggested, earning a nod and smile from Naruto. Thanks, Yugao-chan, I think I'll do that. Naruto replied. After a quick meal at the sushi restaurant, Naruto and Yugao went to join the rest of Naruto's friends at one of the shinobi bars located around Konoha and spent the rest of the night telling stories about some of their missions as well as how they met. Next morning, Yugao woke early the next morning to the sound of clashing steel. Knowing it was probably just Naruto training, she decided to get up and gauge where his kenjutsu skill stood in comparison to her own. Yugao would admit that in both taijutsu and ninjutsu, Naruto was easily more powerful than her. But when it came to kenjutsu, she was still slightly better than him, although she knew that with a little more time, Naruto would surpass even her. Getting dressed in her regular Junin gear, Yugao made her way downstairs and into the backyard, where sure enough Naruto was in a large-scale battle with his clones. Even with her trained eyes she could hardly keep up with Naruto's speed, so a lot of what she saw was just a blur, followed by a puff of smoke, followed by another blur as Naruto massacred his clones left and right. With only 4 clones remaining, Naruto decided to stop his relentless assault and set up with his ninjutsu in a defensive position. A few moments passed before 2 of the clones charged Naruto, one aiming to sweep Naruto's legs out from underneath him while the other came from above attempting to slam him into the ground. Naruto flipped over the leg sweep before stabbing his ninjutsu into the ground and using the hilt to propel himself into a skyward kick that connected with the above clone's chin, making him dispel. After landing on the ground, Naruto took out a kunai and engaged the second clone in a quick taijutsu battle, which ended when Naruto managed to stab the clone with his kunai. After watching the first 2 clones get beat in close combat, the remaining 2 clones decided to try a long-range battle. Going through the required hand signs, both clones yelled out their respected jutsu. Kaden. Grande Fireball Jutsu. Both clones yelled in unison, as 2 large fireballs sped towards Naruto from either side, before he too went through a series of hand seals. Sweden. Water Encampment Wall. The original Naruto shouted, before a large dome of water surrounded him, protecting him from the dual fireball attacks. Hidden Mist Jutsu. Naruto whispered, before a thick mist rolled in over the battlefield which Naruto disappeared in. A few moments later, Yugao heard 2 popping sounds and the mist started to dissipate, showing an unscathed Naruto holding his ninjutsu. Clones, I didn't expect them to fire 2 grande fireballs at me. Naruto mumbled as he made his way over to Yugao. Enjoy the show, Yugao-chan. Quite the performance, Naruto-kun. I was a little surprised when the clones started using jutsus though. You usually only use them in either taijutsu or kenjutsu spars. Yugao said. Yay, well, I can't always control what my clones do. Now I know how you and Kakashi-sensei must have felt trying to train me, although I never hurled 2 high-ranking jutsus at either of you. Naruto said, making Yugao smile slightly. Well, at least they didn't actually hit you, right? Yugao said with a giggle as they made their way inside. Whatever, Yugao-chan, I'm going to make some breakfast before going to my skills assessment. You want anything? Naruto asked, Receiving a nod as his answer, Naruto went to the kitchen to fix them both something to eat. So are you ready for the skills assessment, Naruto-kun? Yugao asked when Naruto returned with their breakfast. Of course, Yugao-chan. While both Asuma and Kiba are strong in their own rights, I have faced tougher opponents and did just fine. Naruto replied, earning a nod from Yugao. She knew how strong her friend was, but she still worried about him. Even still, Naruto, it would be good not to underestimate Asuma-san. He wasn't made one of the daimyo's guardians for nothing. Yugao warned. I know, Yugao-chan, I'll be careful. Naruto said, I hope Ba-chan will keep us together. After working with you for so long, it would be really weird for me to work with anyone else other than maybe Kakashi-sensei. I know what you mean, Naruto-kun. The only reason I left Anbu was to be on the same team as you. I'm sure Tsunade-sama will keep her end of our deal. Yugao replied, earning a nod from Naruto before they continued their breakfast in relative silence, just enjoying each other's company. Few hours later, Training Ground 7. Naruto and Yugao were surprised to see that they weren't the first to arrive at the training ground. The only people who had yet to show up were Kiba and Asuma. As Naruto and Yugao went over to the group, Naruto couldn't help but shudder when he saw the looks that Ino and to a lesser extent Hinata were giving him, making Yugao smirk at him. I never would have thought that Konoha's Reaper, one of the most feared shinobi to come out of Konoha since the Yondaime, would be scared of a blonde-haired fangirl. Yugao teased, earning a glare from Naruto. You have no idea how persistent she is, Yugao-chan. I'd rather face A and S ranked criminals than have to deal with a persistent fangirl. Hinata isn't as bad because she is too shy to actually try something with me, but I'm not so sure about Ino. Naruto replied, as he put as much space as he could between the platinum blonde and himself. How was your night, brat? Have a good time alone with Yugao-san in your house? Jiraiya asked with a lecherous grin, shocking those present who didn't know Yugao was living with Naruto-kun. Can it, you pervert, before I get Tsunade to knock some sense into you? Naruto replied, ignoring the looks he was getting from those present. You're living with Naruto, Yugao-chan? Kurenai asked as she walked up to her friend. Well, I didn't really have any other place to stay, and I didn't want to bother you and Anko-chan because you both only have one-bedroom apartments and it wouldn't have been very comfortable with me. After explaining that to Naruto yesterday, he offered to let me stay at his new house for a while. Yugao explained, earning nod from Kurenai. Ba-chan, is Iruka-sensei going to be coming? Naruto asked, earning a surprised look from Tsunade, who had forgot about inviting the academy teacher. Shit. Sorry Naruto, I forgot. I can, Tsunade started, but was cut off by a wave from Naruto. Don't worry about it, Ba-chan, I'll get him. Naruto said as he made a clone and had it go look for Iruka. So are you ready for this, brat? Tsunade asked as she looked at her surrogate little brother. Yugao-chan asked me the same thing earlier. Naruto replied with a laugh as he stole a glance at his purple-haired friend, and I'll tell you the same thing I told her, of course I am. I just hope they can give me a decent fight. Confident are we? Tsunade asked with a smirk, as even she didn't know the full extent of Naruto's strength. I didn't become Konoha's Reaper for no reason, I earned my mask, Ba-chan. Naruto replied with a smirk of his own, making Tsunade nod. I hope you can back that up, Naruto-kun. Asuma-san is no slouch when it comes to close combat, same goes for Kiba. Kakashi said, I know, there are only a few people in this village who I wouldn't want to fight close quarters, and they are all already here. I'm not too worried about Asuma-san or Kiba-san, but don't worry, Kakashi-sensei, Yugao-chan already made me promise to be careful. Naruto replied, earning a nod from Kakashi. Naruto-kun, is that really you? Said a voice from behind everyone, making Naruto turn with a smile on his face. Iruka-sensei, I'm glad you were able to make it. Naruto said as he walked over and embraced the scarred Chunin. I was worried when everyone had said you disappeared, Naruto-kun. I thought you might have been dead. Where have you been these past 3 years? Iruka asked as they broke apart. Well, for the week after I was in the hospital after I failed to bring Sasuke back, I had a lot of time to think. During that time, Ero-sennin came and told me he wanted to take me out of the village to train. Naruto said, making Iruka go wide-eyed. Jiraiya-sama asked you to become his apprentice. Iruka asked. I did, yay. But the damn brat refused to be taken from the village. He was worried that if he was out of the village he wouldn't be able to protect his friends in case the village was attacked. Jiraiya said, catching everyone's attention as they didn't know the exact reason why Naruto didn't leave with Jiraiya. That's right. I didn't want to leave to village so I refused. The day I was released I went and talked to Ba-chan and asked to be put into the Anbu program, and after some negotiating with the council I was allowed to join. Naruto explained. So you have been in Anbu for the past 3 years then? Iruka asked. He was shocked that Naruto had been allowed to join Anbu. As much as he hated to admit it because of how he considered Naruto to be a little brother to him, but the Naruto he remembered wouldn't have had the skills to be placed into Anbu. I have, and while I'm still alive I have to tell you that the Naruto you once knew no longer exists. I'm no longer the class dead last who throws Kage Bunshin around just because I have the chakra capacities to do so. Naruto said, shocking Iruka again as he wondered just how much Naruto had changed over the past 3 years. I know that it's usually forbidden knowledge, but now that you are no longer Anbu I don't think it matters. What mask did you have? Iruka asked. He knew the story behind Anbu about their masks being special to those who wore them. Naruto smirked before a small seal appeared on his forehead and a poof of smoke went up, blocking Naruto's face from view. No way, Iruka whispered after the smoke had cleared, and there stood Naruto, the Reaper mask covering his face. Pretty bad huh? Naruto asked with a smirk as the mask disappeared as well as the small seal on his forehead. I'd say, I never thought I'd have taught Konoha's most feared Anbu operative since Itachi Uchiha. Iruka said with a proud smile. Naruto was about to reply when he suddenly felt 2 chakra signatures suddenly approaching. They are finally here, Naruto said to Tsunade, who nodded in response. Iruka was about to ask what was going on when Asuma and Kiba appeared in the middle of the training ground. I was beginning to think neither of you were actually going to show up. Naruto said in a bored tone, earning a growl from Kiba as Asuma's eyes narrowed. Like I'd ever run from you. Doesn't matter what you have been doing over the past 3 years, you are still the class dead last in my books. Kiba said, as a large white dog barked in agreement. Whatever Kiba, whatever issue you have with me is none of my business, but be warned, I'm not the same kid who took abuse from you all those years ago. Naruto said as he narrowed his eyes and stood across from the 2 Junin. Alright, this is going to be a fight between the 2 Junin Asuma Sarutobi, Kiba Inzuka, and Special Junin Naruto Uzumaki. It will be a 2-on-1 fight so we can gauge Special Junin Naruto Uzumaki's skills in combat. Tsunade said as everyone quieted down and started paying attention to the training field. Do you think Naruto-kun will be okay, Sakura? Ino asked as she looked over at her longtime friend and former rival. I'm not sure, Ino. Sure, the fact that Naruto has been in Anbu for the past 3 years is impressive, but he is fighting against 2 of Konoha's best close-quarters Junin. Sakura replied, not taking her eyes off her former teammate. What do you think, Neji-kun? Will Naruto be okay or was he all talk? Tenten asked her teammate. While I find it hard to believe Naruto would be able to fight both Kiba and Asuma-san at the same time, he wasn't called Konoha's most unpredictable ninja for no reason. I think Naruto will surprise all of us. Neji replied. Are all fighters ready? Start. Tsunade yelled, and instantly Naruto started going through a set of hand seals that both Kakashi and Sakura recognized. No way, Sakura said, just before Naruto finished his jutsu. Hidden Mist Jutsu. Naruto shouted, as just like this morning a dense mist started to envelope the training ground. Kiba, stay close to me, I'm going to try and make the mist go away. Asuma said before going through his own hand signs. Futon. Great wind breakthrough. Asuma yelled, but was shocked when his attack didn't blow the mist away. Nice try, Asuma-san. As a fellow futon user I can tell you it will take a wind attack a lot stronger than that to make my mist go away. Came Naruto's voice from inside the mist. Where are you, Naruto? Come out and fight like a man. Kiba shouted, before freezing up when he felt a kunai against his back. Behind you, Naruto whispered, before Kiba turned around and swung his fist, hoping to hit Naruto. Instead he hit something big and fairly soft, before hearing a pained yelp from his partner. Akamaru. Naruto, I'll make you pay for that. He shouted. On the sidelines, The only ones who could see what was going on inside the mist were Neji and Hinata, but due to how much of Naruto's chakra was circulating in the mist, even they found it hard to see. Can any of you see what is happening? Sakura asked. It looks like Naruto used his speed inside the mist to get behind Kiba before saying something and disappearing again. Kiba turned and tried to hit Naruto but took Akamaru out instead. Neji explained. Pretty sneaky tactic. Without Akamaru, Kiba won't be able to use his Fang over Fang technique to its full capability unless Akamaru is able to get back up by the end of the fight. But Naruto will need more than that to win this fight. Kurenai said, glancing over at Yugao, who didn't look concerned at all. Don't worry, Kurenai-chan. Naruto is just getting warmed up. I don't think he will even need to bring out his big guns to finish this fight. Yugao said as she examined the mist, before noticing it was starting to clear. Back in the fight, as the mist cleared, Asuma noticed that he and Kiba had been separated, and now stood on either side of Naruto. Kiba, go at him together, let's end this quick. Asuma yelled as he took his trench knives out and rushed Naruto, matching Kiba, who rushed in with kunai. Hoping the coordinated attack would push the fight in their advantage, Asuma and Kiba upped the pressure against the blonde, throwing a whirlwind of strikes and combos towards Naruto, who seemed unfazed by their coordinated attack and simply dodged all their strikes. Why aren't you fighting back, Naruto? Too scared? Kiba taunted, but something about the way Naruto was smirking at him made the Inuzuka shudder slightly. One word for you, Naruto started, making Asuma's eyes widen at the sudden influx in chakra coming from the blonde and Kurenai with a log on the opposite side of the training field. Boom. Naruto ended with a smirk before enveloping Kiba in a large explosion, sending the boy flying across the training field and into a tree, where he slumped over unconscious. I'd suggest getting him to the hospital, Naruto said as he looked over at the shocked spectators. On the sidelines, Kiba-kun, Kurenai yelled as she rushed over to her old student. Although impressed with how Naruto was handling himself so far, she felt as though he could have gone a little easier on her student. Holy shit! Ino shouted. What the hell was that? Naruto Kurenai with an exploding clone shortly before the mist cleared. He placed himself between both Kiba and Asuma in hopes that they would engage him together. It was a trap and Naruto led them into it perfectly. Yugao explained, having seen Naruto use this tactic before on missions. How do you know that's what he did? Are you sure it wasn't just luck? Ino asked, but then shrunk at the glare Yugao gave her. The reason I know this is because I've seen Naruto use those two jutsu in combination before. The only difference this time is the amount of chakra he used. Normally when Naruto traps his foes like this, all that's left is bits and pieces. Yugao explained, making everyone shiver, realizing that this new Naruto was not someone to with. Back in the fight, so Asuma-san, do you still want to fight? Naruto asked as he walked back into the middle of the training field. Surely you have seen enough. Don't get brat. Kiba got tricked because he was impatient and couldn't notice the spike in chakra your clone gave off just before exploding. I won't fall for the same trick twice. Asuma said as he started pumping more futon chakra into his trench knives, making them sharper and longer. Very well then, Asuma. Make sure you don't get caught again. Next time I won't hold back. Naruto said, before doing a few hand signs. Kaden. Fire Dragon Jutsu. Naruto shouted, before shooting a large dragon made of fire towards Asuma, who quickly got out of the way. Despite his current situation, Asuma was impressed that the blonde knew not only futon, but Kaden as well. You're good brat, I'll give you that, but you're still too young to be able to beat me. Asuma said. Kaden. Ash burning pile. He shouted as a large cloud of gunpowder and ash made its way over to Naruto, before starting another set of hand signs. Kaden. Grande Fireball Jutsu, he shouted as a large fireball shot towards the cloud of ash, making it ignite, causing a large explosion to envelope the area Naruto was in. Sidelines. Naruto-kun. Sakura yelled as she was about to jump in and save her last remaining teammate, before a hand on her shoulder stopped her. Looking back, she saw the hand belonged to Yugao. Let me go. Naruto needs help. Sakura yelled as she tried to get out of Yugao's grasp. He's your friend. Don't you even care? I do, and it's because I'm his friend that I am confident that Naruto will be okay. Like we have said before, do not underestimate Naruto-kun. Yugao said as she looked at the spot that Naruto had been. That was one of Asuma-sensei's strongest attacks. Are you sure Naruto-kun will be okay? Ino asked, but didn't get an answer as everyone was busy watching the spot Naruto had been. Fight. You should call the fight Tsunade-sama. I don't think he will be getting up after that. Asuma said. That was a good attack, Asuma-san, but it will take more than that to bring me down. Naruto said, earning Asuma's attention. How? Asuma started, but as the smoke cleared he was surprised to see Naruto surrounded by a dome of water. Sweden. Sujinheki. Naruto said as the wall of water dissipated around him. 3 affinities, that's pretty impressive, Naruto. I can see that you came a long way in the past 3 years. I've still got a lot of juice left in the tank though. Asuma said as he brought out his trench knives, pumping chakra through them, causing them to gain a faint blue hue. I wouldn't have expected anything else, Asuma-san, but I wasn't made Konoha's Reaper for nothing. Naruto started before going through a set of hand signs. Sweden. Suiryuden no Jutsu. Naruto said, before a large dragon made of water appeared out of the lake behind Naruto and raced towards Asuma, who was forced to use a kawarimi to get out of the way, before rushing towards Naruto to engage with his trench knives. A seal appeared on Naruto's hand, causing a slight poof of smoke that dissipated to reveal a ninjutsu. Pumping a bit of wind chakra through the blade, Naruto disappeared to meet Asuma, sending a flurry of stabs and slashes at the bearded Junin, making him go on the defensive. Sidelines. Kenjutsu Taha. Man, Naruto's become extremely troublesome over the past few years. Shikamaru said lazily, earning a few nods from around the group. It would seem that Naruto has surpassed all of us. It makes me wonder what he might have been like had someone taught him seriously earlier in his life. Shino said, Naruto has always been a prodigy. Yugao said, earning the group's attention. He may not have been like Sasuke or Neji, who were both born with natural talent. I would put him in the same category as Lee-san, a prodigy of hard work. Naruto trained day and night at Anbu HQ to get to the level he is at now, and according to him he still has tons of room to improve. I have to agree with Yugao-chan. Kurenai stated, but even at that pace, Naruto has grown exponentially over the past 3 years. It would take more than just being a prodigy of hard work for him to grow from the level he was at, to the one he is currently on. That is true, but Naruto is a special case in regards to another area as well. Yugao replied, earning questioning looks from a few of the younger shinobi. How so, Yugao-san? Sakura asked. The Kage Bunshin is a special kind of clone, one that can send information back to the original once being dispelled. The only drawback is how much chakra it takes to make one, as it splits the user's chakra in half evenly for each clone made. Yugao started. Naruto, however, has the largest chakra reserves I've ever seen, and can easily make up to around 100 clones in one go. Now think about it, if each clone sends information back to the original, using 100 clones a day, would equal up to about 100 days of training. That's incredible, Sakura whispered as she looked at her teammate as he was still engaged in close quarters combat with Asuma. Naruto used his clones to train Kenjutsu, Fuinjutsu, and Ninjutsu, while he focused a lot on physical training. Naruto may not look like it, but he is also probably one of the physically strongest shinobi in Konoha, behind Gai-san and Jiraiya-sama. Yugao said, he is a very deadly close-range fighter. With the amount of strength and speed he has, not a lot of enemies can keep up with him if he gets in close. I'm only able to win our Kenjutsu spars based on years of experience and reflexes, but even then Naruto will surpass me soon enough. Yash. Naruto-kun's flames of youth are burning brighter than ever. I must increase my training by 100 times so I can match him. Lee said. That's my student Lee. Guy said. Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee. They yelled before hugging, causing an coastal sunset image to appear behind them. What the is that? Yugao said, appalled and scared at what she was seeing. It's best not to think about it, Yugao-san. Tenten said with a sweat drop. Fight. It seems that Guy-sensei and Lee are the same as ever. Naruto mused to himself before ducking under a punch Asuma had sent at his face. It would be best not to take your eyes off me, Naruto. It wouldn't do well for you to go back to Yugao-san missing an eye. Asuma said confidently. Same could be said for you, Asuma-san, don't get too Naruto replied, before stabbing his sword into the ground to catch both of Asuma's arms. Asuma tried to fight Naruto's grip but found it near impossible to get out, before feeling a strong pain in his gut as Naruto had planted his foot directly into Asuma's stomach, making him cough up a little blood. Naruto, using Asuma's pain as a momentary distraction, released his grip on one of Asuma's hands, before using his now free hand to hit a pressure point in Asuma's arm, rendering it useless as it fell limply at his side. Naruto picked up his sword with his free hand, before placing the tip against Asuma's jugular, causing to bearded Junin to snap back to reality as he felt cold steel against his neck. Give up, Asuma-san. I would prefer it if you do not force my hand any further. Naruto said coldly, sending a shiver down Asuma's spine. I give up, Asuma said, as Naruto retracted his blade before sealing it away again. Good choice, I'd recommend seeing Ba-chan or Shizune-chan to get your arm looked at. Naruto said, earning a nod from Asuma. That was fun for me. If you ever want to have a friendly spar, feel free to find me. Very impressive, brat, Tsunade said as she came up behind the two, followed closely by the others. Yay, that was amazing, Naruto-kun, Sakura said with a smile, making Naruto scratch his head sheepishly. Hee, it wasn't that impressive, Sakura. If I didn't have a chakra-conducting blade like Asuma, the fight could have gone downhill for me. Naruto replied. What did you do to his arm, Naruto-kun? Shizune asked as she gazed at Asuma's limp arm. Oh, I hit a pressure point to make it go limp. You should probably take a look at it to make sure it goes back to normal, Shizune-chan. Naruto said with a smile, making her blush slightly, something that didn't go unnoticed by Tsunade and Yugao. Hi, Naruto-kun, she replied before attending to Asuma. It takes a lot of knowledge about human anatomy to be able to do something like that in the middle of combat, Naruto-san. Shino said, earning a nod from Sakura. Yay. Well, I can't do medical jutsu because of how my chakra is, but I thought it might have helped to learn about human anatomy. Being able to disable an opponent in the middle of combat is a good skill to have if you need to extract information. Naruto said, causing a few of them to shiver at the implication he just gave. Anyways, brat, I think that it's safe to say you have earned this. Tsunade said as she handed Naruto a green Junin vest. Elite Junin Uzumaki Naruto. Make me and your parents proud, brat. Gah, what the happened to me? Kiba asked as he slowly regained consciousness. Looking around, he noticed white walls and ceilings, and could hear low beeping off to his right. I must be in the hospital. That means Naruto won, he didn't survive Anbu for 3 years for no reason, I guess. Ah, you're awake, Kiba-san, that's good. After your fight with Naruto-kun, we thought it would take a lot longer for you to wake up. Shizune said as she entered the room, followed by the rest of Team Kurenai. Kakashi, Sakura and Naruto are Team Kakashi, so why not, right? How are you feeling, Kiba-kun? Kurenai asked. I feel like shit, Kurenai-sensei. What the hell happened? Kiba asked. The last thing I remember is fighting Naruto, then it just went black and I woke up here. After making you accidentally take Akamaru out, Naruto positioned himself between you and Asuma before releasing his hidden mist jutsu. When Asuma saw this, he suggested that you and him both attack Naruto at the same time. What you two didn't know was that Naruto used a kawarimi to switch himself with an exploding clone and lured you both into a trap. Asuma noticed this when the chakra inside the clone suddenly spiked and managed to substitute himself with a log. You, however, were not so lucky and Naruto caught you in the blast, blowing you across the training field. Kurenai explained, making Kiba nod. I can't believe he got so strong, he never had any talent back in the academy. Kiba said, suddenly starting to feel a little bad about the way he acted to his old friend. I up pretty bad, No one expected Naruto to be so strong, I'm sure he would forgive you if you talk to him. Kurenai said, trying to cheer her old student up. Who won the whole fight? Did Naruto beat Asuma as well? Kiba asked. After we took you to the hospital, Asuma tried to use his strongest jutsu on Naruto in hopes that he would be able to take him out. Naruto surprised everyone again by showing that he also had a strong Suiden affinity when he used Suiden, water encampment wall, to protect himself from Asuma's attack. Naruto and Asuma engaged Naruto with his trench knives while Naruto used a special ninjutsu that was able to conduct his chakra. he was eventually able to render one of Asuma's arms useless and forced him to give up. Shizune explained as she checked on Kiba's condition. You should be fine to go home in a few hours, Kiba-san. Alright, thanks Shizune-san. Kiba replied, earning a nod from said medic. So what do you guys think of Naruto's new strength? Naruto-san trained hard in the Anbu for the past 3 years to be strong enough to protect the village. I find it logical to believe that Naruto-san has yet to show his true capabilities. Shino stated. Why yay, and a few days ago I saw him coming out of the Yondaimi's old compound. When I asked my father about it, he wouldn't tell me anything about it. Hinata added, making Kurenai's eyes widen slightly. She had noticed Naruto's uncanny appearance to the Yondaime Hokage and had wondered before if they were somehow related, but decided to put that information away for later. That's an interesting discovery, Hinata-chan. Hopefully Hokage-sama will be able to shed some light on everything eventually. Kurenai stated. And I have to agree with you as well, Shino-kun. After Asuma passed out from chakra exhaustion, Yugao explained to us that Naruto was just playing with you and Asuma the entire time. While Asuma is classified as an elite Junin, Naruto explained that Asuma didn't take him seriously and wasted most of his chakra early trying to overpower him. Naruto has very large chakra reserves and by the end of the fight he wasn't even tired. I see, I guess the rest of us will just have to work harder to catch up to him now. Kiba said, earning nods from his teammates and a smile from his sensei. With Naruto and the rest of the Konoha 11. After Naruto's fight with Asuma and Kiba, everyone other than Kurenai's team had decided to stick together and relax for the rest of the day and had invited Naruto and Yugao to accompany them. It took a little persuasion from Yugao, but eventually Naruto caved and decided to spend the rest of the day with his friends who had decided to relax at one of the lakes close to Konoha. So, it looks like Anbu has really paid off for you, Naruto-kun. You really surprised us all earlier today. Sakura said as she sat down beside her old teammate. Yay, it did, but there are still things I could improve at, other jutsus that I intend to master, things I want to create. Naruto replied as he looked out over the lake. How much have you changed, Naruto-kun? Just when I thought I might have been catching up to you, this happens, Sakura thought as she pictured Naruto and Sasuke walking far in front of her, and she couldn't help but frown. What's wrong, Sakura? Naruto asked as he noticed his teammate's sudden mood change. When Tsunade had called us all together yesterday and explained that you were okay and had just been away training over the past 3 years, I couldn't help but feel that we could finally work together again as equals. As much as I hate to admit it, you and Sasuke were always ahead of me when we were a part of Team 7. I thought that maybe after 3 years I had finally caught up to you, but what you showed us all earlier today makes me realize that you and Sasuke are still far ahead of me. She explained sadly. I see. In truth, Sakura, I meant what I said the other day about us not being a very good team in the past. Naruto started, making Sakura lower her head even more. However, that doesn't mean that we can't make things better. You have been receiving training from one of the legendary Sannin over the past 3 years. As much as I enjoy annoying Tsunade, the amount of skill she holds is not something to be overlooked. During my first couple years at Anbu, I was assigned as one of Tsunade's guards. During those days I was able to witness what some of the training she was putting you through. Although you know the secret to Tsunade's super strength, most of the training she gave you was that of a medic nin, and even though I was trained to work in the shadows as an Anbu, my chakra reserves allow me to be a powerhouse. We are probably going to be put on the same team again with both Kakashi-sensei and Yugao-chan. I'd rather have a skilled medic than another ninjutsu or kenjutsu specialist. Thanks, Naruto-kun, I appreciate that. Sakura replied with a smile. We have both changed a lot over the past 3 years it seems, but don't think I'm going to stop trying to catch up to you. I wouldn't dream of it, Sakura. If you ever want a sparring partner, I'd be happy to help, and if you ever become interested in learning kenjutsu, I'm sure I could ask Yugao-chan to help you out. Naruto replied, earning a thankful nod from Sakura. Speaking of Yugao-san, how did the two of you meet? Sakura asked, earning the attention of a few of the others. Yay, you guys never really explained how the two of you had met the other night. Tenten asked as she, Ino, Neji, Shikimaru, Choji, and Lee all came over to where Naruto and Sakura were. You guys are really interested in that, huh? Naruto said, receiving nods from his friends. He sighed before continuing, Yugao-chan and I have actually known each other since before we started the academy. Due to events surrounding my birth, I wasn't well liked by the villagers, and after I started living by myself they would start harassing me, sometimes going as far as attempting to beat me. After the first few attempts, Sandame Gigi started to assign Anbu guards to watch over me. Yugao saved my skin a few times when I was younger, so when I joined Anbu I searched her out in hopes that I would be able to properly thank her. What I didn't know at that time was that Yugao-chan's fiancé had been killed during the Suna invasion, and she had spent a lot of her time taking numerous S-ranked missions which are considered to be suicide missions. Why would Yugao-san take such dangerous missions? Tenten asked. Her fiancé was Hayate Gecko, our first proctor during the third part of the exams. He was killed by the Suna Junin Baki after he was discovered trailing the traitor Kabuto. The death of Hayate was extremely hard on Yugao-chan, not even her friends could convince her to stop taking missions. Naruto explained. Then how did you manage to get through to her? It must have taken a long time, right? Ino asked. As the self-proclaimed gossip queen of Konoha, she was always looking for interesting stories. It did. I hardly ever saw Yugao-chan for the first few months when I was in Anbu. Whenever I did, she was either leaving or just returning from a mission and was too busy to stop and talk. I eventually managed to get her alone in one of the training grounds and managed to give her my thanks. A few weeks after that I started to learn Kenjutsu, and was told by a few people in Anbu that Yugao-chan was the resident Kenjutsu specialist in Konoha, so I began searching for her again in hopes that she would start training me. It took a little persistence, but eventually she caved in and agreed to help train me. By this time I knew about her past with Hayate and was hoping that giving her an apprentice would keep her from going on suicide missions, which it did for a while. Naruto said. You said for a while, I'm assuming she eventually started doing them again, right? Neji asked, earning a nod from Naruto. Yes, she did. I remember asking her not to, but she just kept brushing me off, saying it was none of my business. She continued to train me in Kenjutsu, but our sessions became few and far between until it got to the point where I would be lucky to get one lesson a week. A few weeks later, Yugao got seriously injured on a mission and had to be hospitalized for a couple weeks. During those 2 weeks I visited her quite frequently, asking her to tell me why she kept trying to get herself killed, but just like the first time she kept brushing me off. Naruto explained. It's obvious that you cared for her. I can't see why she would have just kept brushing you off. Sakura said. Like Naruto-kun explained, at that time I didn't think it was any of his business. Came Yugao's voice from behind everyone as she looked at Naruto with a small smile. Naruto was very persistent in trying to get me to open up. During that time I didn't know that he already knew Hayate and was just trying to get me to open up to him by myself, but I guess I was taking too long because he eventually snapped on me. I had never seen Naruto lose his cool like that in all the years I had known him. It was a real eye-opener for me. Yay. I know what you mean. It's strange when Naruto-kun gets upset. Sakura said, remembering the verbal lashing Naruto had given her the day before. It is. That day Naruto was able to remind me that I had other things to live for besides Hayate-kun. I had friends like Kurenai-chan, and Anko-chan who would miss me, as well as people in Anbu, including Naruto. After that day I started taking less and less S-ranked missions, while taking more time to train Naruto in Kenjutsu. We eventually went from being just work partners to friends, and he even managed to get me to open up about Hayate-kun's death. He doesn't give himself much credit for everything that happened, but the truth is that Naruto-kun changed my life. Had he not come by that day to ask me for training, I can safely say I would either be dead by now or still taking suicide missions as much as I could. Yugao said. Ah, it's almost romantic. Ino said with hearts in her eyes, earning a slight giggle from Yugao and a tick mark on Naruto's forehead. There was nothing romantic about watching someone close to me trying to kill herself, Ino-san. I'm just glad that I was able to help change Yugao-chan's outlook on life. Naruto said, suppressing the small amount of red that threatened to tint his cheeks. Right. That's why you're living together now, huh? Ino said, and then smirked as she saw Naruto stiffen slightly. Whatever, Ino, Yugao has no place to go right now, and I've recently come into some property that has a lot of available space. Naruto said quickly, hoping to defuse the situation before the gossip queen could get any more information from either of them. Yugao could only smile at Naruto's interaction with his old friends. She was happy for her friend being able to interact normally with his old friends. I hope you enjoy these few moments of peace you're having, Naruto-kun. With everything that is going to come to light soon, you're probably going to gain a lot more enemies. With the Junin senseis a few hours later. Naruto-kun's flames of youth sure have brightened over the past few years, haven't they, my eternal rival? Guy said as the Junins all sat together at one of the shinobi bars located around Konoha. You know what, Guy, for once I agree with you. Naruto-kun came a long way since joining Anbu. He has grown in ways I would have never imagined. Kakashi replied, earning a nod from Guy. I don't think that Naruto was ever a bad student, Kakashi-san. Iruka said, earning the attention of those present. During Naruto's academy days, a lot of the teachers there tried to sabotage his work and keep him back. If Naruto would have received proper training he deserved, then I think Naruto could have easily been Rookie of the Year. Yes, with proper training Naruto would have been quite the genin. If I had realized Naruto's hidden potential earlier, I might have been able to help push him in the right direction, but it took his teammate shoving an A-ranked assassination jutsu through his chest for him to change. Kakashi said in shame. It sucks about what happened with Sasuke, but Naruto turned out okay in the end. Maybe what happened with Sasuke was a blessing in disguise. Iruka said thoughtfully. What do you mean, Iruka-san? You are probably the closest thing Naruto has to a real family. How would having a roll ripped through his chest be a blessing in disguise? Kakashi asked with narrowed eyes. Don't get me wrong, Kakashi-san. Naruto is like my little brother. But had it not been for what happened with Sasuke, I don't think Naruto would have ever considered entering Anbu. Even if Naruto had been taken out of the village by Jiraiya, there would only be so much Jiraiya would have been able to train him. Naruto joining Anbu gave him the ability to train not only his physical strength, but he learned to control all three of his elemental affinities and start on his fourth. Aside from that, Naruto has become quite the Kenjutsu user as well. Yugao said that he is close to even surpassing her. Iruka explained proudly. He surpassed me a long time ago, and will probably pass the rest of you before you know it. He has come a long way since the time he fought Kiba-kun in the Chunin exam finals a few years ago. I never would have thought that someone like Naruto would be able to take Yugao-chan out of her depression. Kurenai said, remembering that he friend and the young blonde were quite close. Naruto has always had the special ability to make friends out of the most unlikely people. He was the one who convinced even Tsunade-sama to return to the village. He would make a great negotiator and ambassador if Konoha ever needed one. Iruka said. Yugao-chan speaks quite highly of young Naruto-kun. I wonder how she actually feels about him. I hope she has finally decided to move on. If only I could find someone to be with, Kurenai thought. Next morning with Naruto and Yugao, Hokage's office. We received a request from Wave Country earlier this morning. Apparently an ambassador from Kumo is on the way to speak with the daimyo of Wave Country about trade negotiations, and the daimyo requested that a team from Konoha be sent to act as bodyguards during the negotiations. Tsunade said, gaining Naruto's attention. So you think because I have previous experience with the people of Wave Country that sending me would also be good for our relations with Wave? Naruto asked, making Tsunade nod. After your disappearance into Anbu 3 years ago, Wave Country has been demanding to know what happened to you, and our trade treaty has become a little shaky lately. Letting Wave know that you are fine will hopefully bolster our relationship. Tsunade explained, earning a nod from Naruto. I can understand why you would want that, as Wave is one of the largest trading centers in all of the elemental nations, but why send me? What about Kakashi-sensei or Sakura? Naruto asked. I don't know if you realize this, Naruto, but you have been considered a hero in Wave ever since your team's first mission there, a hero that as far as Wave knows is dead. Sending Kakashi-san or Sakura-chan wouldn't be as effective as sending their country's hero. Tsunade replied. Alright Ba-chan, I understand the reason why you want to send me now. Who will the rest of my team be? I'm assuming that Yugao-chan will be coming with me as she left Anbu to work with me specifically. Naruto said, earning a nod from the female Hokage. Yugao-san will be joining you, along with Kurenai and her old team. Tsunade replied. Moments before said team entered her office. Team Kurenai reporting for our mission Tsunade-sama. Kurenai said as they entered the room before sending Naruto a friendly smile. I was just going over the mission with Naruto-kun Kurenai-san, he will be leading this mission alongside both Yugao and your team. Tsunade said, and received a nod of approval from the red-eyed Junin. Hi, Tsunade-sama. Kurenai replied with a slight bow before turning to Naruto. My team is already packed and ready for a long-term mission Naruto-san, we are able to leave as soon as you are ready. Alright Kurenai-san, please meet me at the main gate, I just have to stop and get Yugao-chan then we will be ready to leave. We will be taking a fast pace to Wave Country, even though I've been there in the past the city we are going to has no doubt changed a lot over the past few years and I would like a few days to relearn the layout of the town. I'm not expecting Kumo to try anything funny but I like to know the basic layout of a city in case something happens. Naruto said, before using a shunshin to leave the office, followed by Team Kurenai who went to wait at the gate. Main gate 5 minutes later. Hey Kurenai-sensei, have you ever been to Wave Country before? Kiba asked as they waited for Naruto to arrive with Yugao. A long time ago during a mission when I was still a genin, but I haven't been there since Gato was overthrown a few years ago. Kurenai replied, receiving a nod from Kiba. According to Tsunade-sama, Wave U underwent a drastic sea change right after Team S7 finished that mission W when we were still genin. Hinata said, Gato was a money-hungry tyrant, it would make sense that with him out of the way the people of Wave Country would be able to rebuild and eventually thrive. They have managed to become one of the largest trading ports in the elemental nations because of the bridge they were able to finish, also given the location of Wave, they are able to receive shipments from countries that can't normally send goods over land. Shino explained. That's a good observation Shino-kun, I have to agree with you on both accounts. Kurenai said with a smile, before sensing Naruto and Yugao fast approaching. Alright you guys, it's a few-day journey to Wave and I would like to get there with at least a day to scout the area, I'm sure Wave has changed greatly since I was there with Kakashi-sensei during the construction of the bridge. Naruto said after appearing with Yugao. I'm not expecting any confrontations while on the way to Wave, but stay close together and don't let your guard down. Later that night, near the border of the Land of Fire. Having made it through the day without any problems, Naruto decided to set up camp in a meadow near the border of Fire Country. Judging by the pace they had set throughout the day, he figured they would make it to Wave early tomorrow night, giving them enough time to rest before taking a day to scout the village. You seem troubled Naruto-kun, is everything alright? Yugao asked as she landed beside the young blonde. Not really, just thinking about the mission. We should arrive in Wave early tomorrow night, but that's not my issue. I've led dangerous missions before, but I had Anbu backup in case things went south. While I trust both you and Kurenai-san I don't want to get Kiba, Hinata, and Shino into a situation they might not be able to handle. With my track record for missions going south I can't help but be cautious about all this. Naruto explained. Konoha and Kumo aren't on good terms right now, and last I heard Kumo has 2 Jinchuriki who both have full control over their Biju. While I might be able to deal with the Jinchuriki of the 2 tails, even with you and Kurenai-san here we would be no match for the 8 tails. There are a lot of unknowns in this mission Naruto-kun, but both Kurenai-chan and I have faith in your leadership skills. And besides, even if Kumo were to recognize you I don't think they would try anything while trying to gain a trading contract with a country that considers you a hero, that would be a little counterproductive don't you think? Yugao explained, earning a nod from Naruto. Thanks Yugao-chan, it feels weird not leading a group of Anbu, but my friends have been training hard as well, I'll just have to trust them to do what needs to be done. Naruto replied with a thankful nod, I'll take the first watch of the night, I'll let you know when it's your turn alright. Try and get some sleep Yugao-chan. Thanks Naruto-kun, don't be afraid to get me if you feel like something isn't right, you may be strong, but we are still a team and I don't want you to have all the fun. Yugao replied with a smile, before turning and heading towards her tent. Few hours later, Naruto was sitting peacefully on a branch overlooking the camp when one of the clones he had sent to secure the perimeter was killed, sending him the memories. My clones were well hidden, how could someone have snuck up on them without them realizing it? this isn't good, Naruto thought before jumping down and making his way into the camp. Guys, wake up. We have a problem. I need all of you out here right now. Naruto said, getting the message across by the urgency in his voice. What's wrong, Naruto-kun? Yugao asked as she came up beside him, hand resting on the hilt of her sword. One of the clones I had sent out earlier to secure the perimeter was taken out before it or any of the others could realize there was someone there. Naruto explained. Yugao's eyes widened at this. Naruto was one of the best censors she had ever met, and to be able to sneak up on him unnoticed was almost unheard of. Hinata, Shino, get in the middle of Kurenai, Yugao, Kiba and I Hinata to use her Byakugan to get a full 360 of the area while Shino surrounds the camp with his bugs in case Hinata misses something or the enemy is fast enough to get through unnoticed. Naruto said. What about me, Naruto? Kiba asked. Akamaru and I should be able to smell whoever is out there. You can't always trust your nose, Kiba. During my years in Anbu I came across reports of ninja able to mask their smell to sneak by Inuzuka. Just be ready for an attack. Naruto said, receiving a nod as they all took up defensive positions. Your reputation precedes you, Reaper of Konoha. I would never have thought that one of the most feared Anbu to ever grace the elemental nations would carry such a burden as you do. Tell me, does it speak with you? A voice asked, making Naruto's and Yugao's eyes narrow. How would you know about what I carry? And as for your question, I haven't spoken with it in a long time. Naruto replied. I know many things about you, Reaper-san, and also about the organization that hunts that which is inside you, young Namikaze. The voice said, making Naruto's eyes widen, along with Kurenai's. You seem to know a lot about me, yet I know nothing about you. Why haven't you shown yourself yet? Are you a part of the Akatsuki? Naruto asked. Acting calm on the outside, yet inside he was anything but calm. How would he know about the Kyuubi? And he also knows about my father. Those are two of Konoha's best kept secrets. I'm not yet at full strength, Reaper-san. It wouldn't be wise for me to show myself to the world just yet. I could care less about what you hold inside you. What the Akatsuki intends to do is bound to fail in the end. Just remember that when I make my presence known, the Akatsuki will be the least of your worries. Farewell for now, Reaper-san. Make sure to cherish these moments of peace with your friends and the ones you love, for when I return this world will burn. We need to leave, right now. Naruto said after a few moments of silence, earning nods from the rest of his team. After what just happened, nobody wanted to stay there any longer. Kurenai-san, Yugao-chan, come with me while the rest of you pack up and get ready to leave. He knew too much, Naruto-kun. The fact that he knows about what you hold and who you're related to is something that we should be worried about. He also said that he wasn't at full power, yet he managed to sneak up on us and take out your clones without them noticing. I hate to think of what someone like that might be capable of when at full power. Yugao said after the three of them had gotten far away enough from everyone else. I agree. He knows who I am and what kind of reputation I carry, yet he wasn't fazed by that. I need to let Tsunade-sama know about this. Naruto said before quickly taking out a scroll and writing a few things before making hand signs. Kuchio's no jutsu, Naruto said before a small puff of smoke appeared and a small toad popped out. I need this message delivered to the Hokage immediately. Make sure no one but her sees it as it contains some of Konoha's best kept secrets. Naruto told the toad before handing it the scroll. Naruto, is what he said true? Are you really a Namikaze? Kurenai asked, making Naruto sigh. Yes, Kurenai-san, I am. My real name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of Yondaime Hokage Minato Namikaze and Konoha's red-hot-blooded habanero Kushina Uzumaki, who, like me, was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Naruto explained, making Kurenai's eyes widen. But right now that's the least of our concerns. I trust that you will be able to keep this to yourself until Ba-chan and I decide to make the announcement. Of course, Naruto, you have my word that I won't tell anyone about this. Kurenai replied. Thanks, Kurenai-san. Now we should head back. Looks like they are pretty much done packing up. Naruto replied before heading back to the camp. Alright, I've sent a message to Tsunade-sama letting her know of our current situation. We will not be stopping until we reach Wave this time. I want you all on high alert in case something like that happens again. He was able to kill my clones and slip by without any of them noticing, as well as slipping past Hinata's Byakugan. If we have to stop for any reason, I don't want any of you wandering off by yourself. Pick a partner now and you two will stick together until we reach wave, and after that formulate a better plan. Naruto explained as he stood beside Yugao, Kurenai with Hinata, and Kiba with Shino. I do not think we will have another run-in with whoever that was, but regardless of that, this mission just became a lot more deadly, and I don't want any of my friends to die. Now let's go. With Tsunade. Tsunade was in the middle of a meeting with both Jiraiya and Kakashi concerning the Akatsuki when a small puff of smoke appeared on her desk. Tsunade-sama, Naruto-san sends you a message, stating it was for your eyes, and your eyes only. The small toad said before disappearing again. What has the brat gotten himself into now? Tsunade sighed out as she unfurled the scroll and started reading it. Upon reading it, however, her demeanor changed and her eyes widened slightly. What happened with Naruto-kun, Tsunade-sama? Kakashi asked, put off by the blonde Hokage's sudden change. Naruto and his team stopped on the border of Fire Country for the night and Naruto decided to take first watch while his teammates slept. A few hours into his shift, Naruto's clones were killed without any of them sensing who did it. Tsunade said, making Jiraiya's eyes widen. Bullshit. Even I have troubles just sneaking past Naruto and his clones, especially when they are hidden. Naruto is almost as good as me when it comes to stealth. Jiraiya said, surprised that someone would be able to kill multiple of Naruto's shadow clones without one of them sensing who was there. That's not all. Whoever did that was able to sneak up on the team and speak with Naruto, even though Hinata was using her Byakugan and Shino had his bugs surrounding the area. He knew the kind of reputation Naruto had, as well as the facts that he is Minato's son and is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Tsunade explained. Impossible, those are some of Konoha's best kept secrets, the only person who knows where documents like that are held is the Hokage. Kakashi said, was he part of the Akatsuki? According to Naruto he isn't, going on to quote that, what the Akatsuki is planning to do with the Biju is bound to fail, and later telling Naruto to enjoy the peace with his friends and loved ones because the next time he makes his presence known he promises to make the world burn. So, what you're saying is that this person was able to kill Naruto's clones without being caught, but was also to hold a conversation with Naruto's team who, might I add, have a Hyuga, Aburame, and Inzuka on it, without being seen, sensed, or smelled. Jiraiya asked, earning a nod from Tsunade. This isn't good. We should send a team of Anbu to investigate the area to see if they can find anything. No doubt Naruto will already be on the move again. You could send another team as backup, but by the time they got there the negotiations would probably already be finished. Jiraiya said. Agreed, I'll send a team of Anbu to search the area where Naruto and his team set up camp. Jiraiya, I want you to ask around your spy network, see if anyone else has had a similar experience as this, or at the least try and figure out who might be capable of something like this. Tsunade ordered, earning a nod from Jiraiya before he shunshined out of the office. Kakashi, I want you to lead the Anbu team in charge of searching the area Naruto encountered this person. Your Sharingan will be useful in picking up chakra signatures and tiny details other people might miss. Hi, Tsunade-sama, Kakashi said before also using a shunshin to leave the tower. Why can't you ever do something simple without turning it into a big pile of paperwork? Be careful Naruto-kun, too many people care about you for you to kick the bucket this early. Tsunade said as she gazed out the window. A threat supposedly bigger than the Akatsuki, we need to be ready for anything. Suna will need to be informed of this as soon as possible as well.